Imagine, just for a moment, that you meet someone who doesn't just feel like a passing connection, but like destiny in human form. You don't know how, and you certainly can't explain why, but something about this person stirs your soul in ways you didn't think were possible. It's as if the universe conspired for lifetimes just to bring you together. You feel drawn to them with an almost magnetic force, something ancient, something divine. Their eyes seem to hold stories you've lived before. Their voice sounds familiar, like a lullaby you forgot you once knew. It's not about infatuation. It's not even about falling in love in the traditional sense. It's a recognition and overwhelming, soul-deep knowing that this person was always meant to find you. That they are not just someone you love, but someone who reflects your very essence. That's the energy of a twin flame connection. It's raw, intense, and inescapable. And just when it feels like the universe is opening a portal to something miraculous, it happens, the silence. What begins as a deep, soul-affirming union starts to falter. You start noticing little shifts. They respond slower. They seem distracted. They pull back emotionally. They may say they're confused, not ready, unsure of what they feel, even though you both know something extraordinary is happening between you. Then one day, without any real explanation, they're gone. Sometimes it's a gradual fading. Sometimes it's a sudden disappearance. But either way, you're left alone, confused, and in pain. The very person who awakened your heart and soul has vanished like a ghost. And you're left trying to make sense of the silence that follows, a silence louder than any scream. The runner, as they're often called, has cut off contact, leaving you to spiral into a storm of unanswered questions. Was it something you said? Did you misread the connection? Were they ever truly invested? Or, worse, was it all in your head? The pain of this disconnection is not ordinary. It cuts deeper than heartbreak, because this wasn't just a relationship ending. This was a part of your soul disappearing. The grief is profound. It feels like mourning a death, but it's a death no one else understands. Friends tell you to move on. Family urges you to forget. But how do you forget a mirror to your soul? How do you unfeel something that felt preordained by the cosmos itself? You begin to question not only the connection but yourself. You doubt your intuition. You wonder if you're crazy. And yet, beneath all that pain, there's something else emerging, something quieter, but undeniable. An invitation. A shift. A call to wake up. This is the paradox of the twin flame journey. The very silence that breaks you is also what begins to rebuild you. Because what if their disappearance was never meant to punish you, but to trigger your transformation? What if this wasn't abandonment, but alignment? Think about it. When else in your life have you been forced to confront your deepest wounds so suddenly, so completely? Their silence didn't just create distance. It pulled back a veil. It exposed the cracks in your self-worth. It forced you to look inward. You weren't just left behind. You were propelled forward into yourself, into healing, into purpose. Painful as it is, their absence may be the most sacred gift your soul has ever received, because it forced you to begin the journey home to your own light. And here's what most don't realize. The runner doesn't always leave out of cruelty. Often, they leave out of fear. The connection is so intense, so vulnerable, so divine, that it activates every dormant wound they carry. They don't know how to process it. They feel exposed, terrified, unworthy. And so, they run not from you, but from the version of themselves they're not ready to face. The twin flame connection doesn't just reveal love. It reveals truth. And truth, when we're not prepared to face it, can feel like a threat. So ask yourself, was your twin flame really rejecting you? Or were they escaping the light you reflected back to them? But this journey isn't just about understanding them. It's about rediscovering you. The silence hurts, yes, but it also teaches. It reveals the parts of you still aching for validation, the parts still yearning to be chosen. So now I ask you, what did their silence show you about yourself? What parts of you came alive in the darkness they left behind? Have you used this separation to collapse or to evolve? When your twin flame disappears, it can feel like betrayal wrapped in confusion. You knew the connection was real. You felt it in your bones. So how could they just walk away? How could someone who seemed so spiritually aligned with you suddenly become unreachable, distant, even cold? The pain makes it tempting to assume the worst, that they never cared, that they played with your heart, that they were too broken to love. But what if the truth was far more complex? What if their retreat wasn't about you at all, but about the battlefield within themselves that you accidentally walked into? You see, the twin flame runner doesn't flee because they don't feel. They flee because they feel too much. The depth of the connection exposes the deepest wounds they've spent a lifetime suppressing. And facing that level of truth, without having done the internal work to hold it, can feel like drowning. Let's go deeper. Every runner has a story, a buried trauma, a core wound, a silent belief that they are unworthy of the kind of love that sees them fully. For some, it's the fear of abandonment. For others, it's the belief that they are inherently broken. When you, as their twin flame, come into their life like a mirror, you don't just reflect their beauty, you reflect their pain. You awaken a remembrance of everything they've run from, their childhood pain, their suppressed shame, their past betrayals. You force them to look into their own soul, and not everyone is ready for that. So they run, not to hurt you, but to protect themselves. Not because they don't love you, but because they don't know how to hold that love without collapsing under the weight of it. This is what makes the twin flame journey so emotionally intense. It isn't just about romance. It's about healing. It's about spiritual surgery, cutting open every illusion and revealing the raw, unfiltered truth beneath. And for the runner, that truth is terrifying because it demands transformation. It demands vulnerability. It demands surrender. And when someone has built an entire identity around protecting themselves from pain, surrender can feel like death. So they shut down. They disappear. They convince themselves the connection wasn't real. They bury it. But no matter how far they run, the energy doesn't vanish. It lingers. It haunts. Because this isn't the kind of bond you can unlove or unsee. The twin flame connection is etched into the soul, and no amount of avoidance can erase it. But let's turn the lens for a moment. If you're the one left behind, if you're the chaser, ask yourself, why are you still holding on? Is it love, or is it fear? Are you trying to pull them back because you believe in the connection, or because their absence activated your own abandonment wounds? Twin flames don't just reflect our light, they reflect our shadows. And if their silence shattered you, maybe it's because you were never taught how to stand whole in your own energy. Maybe this pain isn't a punishment but an invitation to reclaim yourself, to heal the parts of you that believed love had to be earned, chased, or proven. What if your healing wasn't dependent on their return, but on your decision to rise, whether they come back or not? And here's something no one talks about. Sometimes the runner is on their own soul mission. Sometimes the distance they create is not just fear, it's purpose. There are runners who leave not because they're broken, but because their path requires solitude, growth, and inner mastery before reunion can occur. You are not the only one undergoing transformation. Their silence may be their cocoon. And you, in your waiting, are also evolving. The twin flame journey is not linear. It's a spiral, a dance of separation and growth, pain and wisdom. Each silence is a doorway. And while the runner appears to be the one who left, Sometimes they're the one holding the mirror that will ultimately lead you both home. So I ask you, can you look beyond the surface and see the fear behind their silence? Can you find compassion for the one who ran, even as you ache from their absence? Can you hold space for their process, while honoring your own healing? Understanding the psychology behind their silence is the first step in freeing both of you. So, if not every runner is escaping out of fear alone, then what else could be happening beneath the surface of this silence? Could there be something sacred at play? Something orchestrated by the soul long before the physical meeting ever occurred? It's time to expand our perspective and consider one of the most misunderstood aspects of the twin flame journey: the soul mission behind the separation. Because not every disconnection is rooted in wounding. Sometimes it's rooted in divine orchestration. Sometimes the runner's silence is not a rejection but a pause, a purposeful space, a soul-aligned intermission meant to trigger deep transformation in both individuals before the next chapter of union can unfold. This is where the human heart struggles to keep up with the soul's wisdom. Because while the ego wants closeness, the soul often requires space to evolve. Consider this. What if the silence was part of a pre-birth agreement? What if, on a soul level, you both chose this painful separation not as punishment, but as a tool for awakening? What if your runner's departure was always meant to crack you open, to send you spiraling into self-discovery, into purpose, into the very power you had forgotten lived inside you? Suddenly, their silence takes on a different meaning. It's not abandonment, it's activation. It's not a goodbye, it's a sacred pause. In this light, the runner becomes not a fugitive, but a spiritual catalyst. A mirror sent to trigger everything within you that needs to rise, to heal, and to evolve. The silence becomes sacred ground. A space where you remember who you are without needing someone else to validate your worth. The twin flame journey is not just a love story. It's a soul mission. And often, that mission requires both twins to walk separate paths before they can walk together. One may be called to solitude, the other to service. One may be plunged into shadow work, while the other awakens to their higher calling. These paths are not punishments. They're preparations. Because true twin flame union isn't about romantic bliss, it's about spiritual alignment. Two souls rising into their highest frequency, not through clinging, but through liberation. And that liberation often begins in the fire of separation. So while your heart may be begging for reunion, your soul may be whispering, "Not yet." There's a powerful shift that happens when you stop asking, "Why did they leave me?" and start asking, "What is this silence here to teach me?" That shift transforms suffering into growth. It transforms longing into purpose. You stop waiting and start becoming. You begin to see the silence as your own initiation. The runner may be walking their own path of healing, learning hard lessons, facing deep karmic patterns. But so are you. And the more you anchor into your own soul mission, your calling, your voice, your inner power, the less dependent you become on their return to feel whole. This is not about forgetting them. It's about remembering you. Because if this connection is truly divine, no distance can destroy it. But clinging can delay it, and healing can accelerate it. So ask yourself, are you seeing this journey only through the eyes of longing? Or can you also see it through the eyes of wisdom? Are you viewing separation as abandonment or as preparation? And most importantly, can you trust your own evolution enough to know that if reunion is meant to happen, it will happen in divine time, not your time? Comment below and let your heart speak. Share how this period of silence has transformed you. What gifts has it forced you to discover? What strength have you uncovered in your loneliness? Because the more you reclaim your voice, your power, your soul, the more you align with the very purpose this connection was meant to awaken in you. This is the paradox of the twin flame runner. They appear to leave you behind, but in truth, they may be running ahead of you, clearing their own inner debris, breaking ancestral cycles, healing generational wounds. And you, in your stillness, are doing the same. This is the divine dance of twin flames, not a chase, not a game, but a mutual initiation into the highest versions of yourselves. One where silence speaks, one where distance heals, one where even separation is sacred. And now we turn our focus to the one who stays, the one who waits, the one who feels everything yet says nothing, the chaser. If you are the one left behind, caught in the ache of silence, you know how heavy this path can be. You wake up every day with 1,000 unanswered questions swirling in your chest. Our heart keeps replaying moments, analyzing words, revisiting signs and synchronicities like clues in a mystery you were never meant to solve. You feel both awakened and shattered. It's the torment of feeling spiritually connected to someone who no longer responds in the physical. And yet, even in the stillness, you can't let go. Not because you're weak, but because something deeper than logic keeps you tethered, something that whispers, "This isn't over yet." But here's the truth most don't realize. The chaser is not just someone who longs. The chaser is someone who transforms. The energy of longing, when transmuted, becomes the most potent spiritual fuel. It becomes the fire that awakens your purpose, that opens your psychic gifts, that catapults you into your highest timeline. This is where your pain becomes alchemy, because every time you choose to feel the absence instead of numb it, you're peeling back another layer of illusion. Every time you sit with your grief instead of running from it, you're reclaiming your soul piece by piece. The silence is not here to punish you. It's here to shape you. And the moment you stop chasing them and start chasing your own light, something miraculous happens. You rise. You begin to realize that you were never truly abandoned. You were being guided. The separation wasn't the end of the love. It was the beginning of your rebirth. And while the ego will tell you that closure only comes through reunion, the soul knows that the greatest closure is self-realization. You begin to understand that your worth is not dependent on their return, that your power was never lost. It was simply waiting to be remembered. Slowly, you detach not from love, but from suffering, not from connection, but from dependency. You start to live again, not for the hope of reunion, but for the joy of rediscovering you. You become the love you were waiting to receive. You embody the peace you were begging them to bring. And that shift changes everything. Because here's what no one tells you. The runner can only return when the chaser stops chasing. Not out of punishment, but because the dynamic must evolve. Chasing creates imbalance. It keeps you in a loop of longing, while preventing you from stepping into your full power. The universe won't bring union until both flames have risen into alignment, not just emotionally, but energetically. So when you stop waiting and start living, you're not giving up on the connection, you're preparing the soil for a deeper reunion. And even if that reunion doesn't happen in the physical, you've still won. Because the highest form of union isn't with your twin flame, it's with your own soul. So I ask you, what have you done with your longing? Have you let it drown you? Or have you let it mold you? What version of yourself is emerging from the silence? Have you turned inward? Or are you still reaching outward, hoping for a text, a sign, a moment of validation? What if the universe is waiting on you to make the first move, not toward them, but toward your own purpose? What has this separation taught you about love, about self-worth, about resilience? Because your journey is sacred. Your healing is sacred. And no silence can take that away from you. The twin flame experience is not a linear romance, it's a crucible. It burns away everything that isn't real. And in that fire, you either collapse or you evolve. The choice is yours. The path is hard, but you are not alone. Every step you take toward your own wholeness sends a signal to the universe. It tells your twin, whether they know it or not, that you are rising. And when both twins rise, the energy shifts. The mission awakens. The reunion becomes inevitable, not always in the way the heart imagined, but always in the way the soul intended. That's the power you hold now. You're not just the chaser. You are the alchemist. Now we arrive at the most sacred turning point of this journey, the moment where silence becomes the birthplace of reunion, not necessarily in the physical, but within the soul. Because what if the true reunion was never about two bodies coming together, but about two souls awakening fully, first individually, then together? What if the pain you've endured was preparing you for a deeper purpose, one that transcends the traditional story of romance, and instead calls you into a higher form of love, one that is unconditional, cosmic, and eternal? The twin flame experience is not a fairy tale, it's a sacred activation. It breaks you open, not to destroy you, but to rebuild you as something more. And only when both twins have fully faced themselves, when they've embraced their darkness, reclaimed their light, and embodied their mission, can the divine reunion occur in its truest form. Think about it. If your twin returned today, would you be ready? Not just emotionally, but spiritually. Could you hold the frequency of union without falling back into the old wounds and patterns that caused the separation in the first place? Reunion is not a reward for suffering. It's a consequence of alignment. It's what happens when both souls reach a state of inner wholeness that no longer depends on the other to feel complete. And that's the paradox. Only when you no longer need your twin are you ready to truly meet them. Because in that state, you're no longer driven by fear, longing, or attachment. You're moved by purpose, truth, and divine timing. This is the essence of sacred reunion. Two sovereign beings, whole within themselves, walking side by side not to complete each other, but to amplify their shared mission. And that mission? It's far bigger than most realize. Twin flames are not just here to love each other. They are here to awaken humanity, to challenge outdated paradigms, to heal ancestral trauma, to raise the collective frequency through their individual and united work. That mission can't unfold until the foundation is strong, until each twin has become a clear channel for divine energy, until each has faced their karmic debts, integrated their shadows, and stepped fully into their soul's calling. That's why the separation exists. Not to punish, but to prepare. Not to break, but to build. Because only through the inner journey do you unlock the power of the outer reunion. So if you're still waiting, still hurting, still longing, breathe. You are exactly where you are meant to be. The silence is sacred. The pain is part of the process. Your growth is the purpose. Trust it. Let it shape you. Let it strip away everything that isn't real, so that only the truth remains. Your truth. Their truth. The soul's truth. And if the day comes when your paths align once more, you will know it not by the butterflies in your stomach, but by the peace in your heart. Because true reunion doesn't create chaos, it creates clarity. It doesn't reignite wounds, it confirms healing. It's not forced, it flows. And if that day never comes in the way your heart imagined, know this: your soul did not fail. Your love was not wasted. Because everything you've become, everything you've healed, everything you've remembered because of them, that is the gift. That is the purpose. The twin flame was never about possession. It was about awakening, about returning you to the truth of who you are. Infinite, whole, radiant, unstoppable. You are not the abandoned. You are the alchemist. You are not the forsaken. You are the forerunner of light. So take this silence and make it sacred. Take this pain and turn it into power. Because that is what this journey has always been asking of you. So now, I turn the final question to you. What are you choosing to do with this chapter of separation? Will you wait passively in longing? Or will you rise fiercely in purpose? Will you hold on to a fantasy? Or will you embody your truth so deeply that your very presence becomes a beacon for healing and love, whether your twin returns or not? In the end, it's not about chasing or running. It's about becoming the version of yourself that your soul always knew you could be.